In the ancient village of Arua, where the red S held memories older than the oldest griot, and the winds carried whispers from the ancestors, two families, the house of Eli and the house of Adamu, once lived like twin branches of the same tree. Their ancestors had hunted together, farmed the same fertile land, and built their homes side by side along the great river Omikoro. Their unity was so strong that travelers often believed they were one extended clan. But the earth remembers everything, especially betrayal. And so begins the tale of how harmony turned to hatred, and how love from a new generation stitched together what pride once tore apart. The trouble started over a piece of land known as Ajaodan, a wide stretch of fertile soil that lay between the two family compounds. For generations, its ownership was never questioned because both families used it for communal harvest festivals. But when the old chief of the village, Babakore, passed on, the village council discovered he had written in his secret scrolls that Ajaodan belonged to the house of Adamu. The house of Eli protested immediately. To them, it was impossible, unthinkable, that land their ancestors had tended together could belong to only one family. They accused the council of plotting, the house of Adamu of treachery, and the ancestral spirits of being silent when they were needed most. Words turned to shouts. Shouts turned to threats. Threats turned to curses. And by the end of the moon cycle, the two families had become sworn enemies, refusing to greet one another, refusing to share water from the stream, refusing even to walk the same footpaths. Where unity once stood, bitterness took root like thorns. The children felt it the most, especially Amina, daughter of Eli, and Daniel, son of Adamu. Amina and Daniel met as children before the rift, fishing by the shallow banks of the river. Even as little ones, they shared a bond as natural as water flowing toward the sea. Amina was bright-eyed, curious, always barefoot. She laughed easily and spoke with the confidence of a hawk who believed she could command the sky. Daniel was gentle, thoughtful, and calm like the evening breeze. He carved wooden birds, played the flute, and was content to listen more than he spoke. When the feud began, they were only 11, but even children know when they are being caged by adult decisions. They were told not to speak again, not to look at each other, not to meet by the river. But the heart listens to its own voice, not the commands of bitterness. By the time they were 17, their friendship had grown into something deeper, sweet, dangerous, and impossible to ignore. They met in secret beneath the giant baobab tree on the edge of the disputed land. Its roots curled like ancient serpents, and its branches stretched wide enough to hide their hearts from prying eyes. Amina would bring roasted yam. Daniel would bring carved trinkets or small fruits. They spoke about dreams, of travel, of peace, of one day healing the hatred that imprisoned their families. One day, Daniel whispered, the land will not be a boundary, but a bridge. Amina placed her hand over his, and we will be the ones to cross it. But fate had sharper plans. One evening, a hunter spotted them at the baobab. Within hours, the entire village buzzed with outrage. The house of Eli called Amina a traitor. The house of Adamu accused Daniel of shameful weakness. The elders met. The verdict was swift and merciless. They must never see each other again. They must be separated until they forget. Send the girl away. Send the boy away. Love must not grow where curses have taken root. And so, by the next sunrise, Amina was sent to live with an aunt in the distant town of Kubwa, and Daniel was sent to apprentice with a carpenter in Banda, a 3-day journey away. Their tears fed the soil of Ajaodan that morning. The land took the moisture. The ancestors watched in silence. 9 years is a long time. 9 rainy seasons, 9 harvests, 9 seasons of Hamatan winds carrying dust and sorrow. Amina's years. Life in Kubwa hardened Amina in unexpected ways. She learned to weave, trade, and speak the languages of merchants. Many men admired her beauty, her confidence, her wit, but none reached her heart. Every night, she whispered into the wind, "Daniel, where are you?" But the wind never answered. Daniel's years. Daniel became a skilled carpenter in Banda. His hands grew strong, his mind sharper, his heart quieter. Women in the town admired him, especially Abena, a merchant's daughter who often bought his carved stools. But he kept his soul locked. Every time he played his flute, the melody carried Amina's name. Both families hoped time would heal the forbidden love. Instead, time preserved it. For 9 years, neither Amina nor Daniel found another partner. The land of Arua remained divided. The families remained enemies. Life continued, but something in the village felt incomplete, as though a wound had never truly healed. Then fate, patient, watchful, ancient, struck again. During the 9th year, a great drought struck Arua. The wells dried, the crops failed, even the river shrank, revealing stones that had not seen daylight for decades. The village priestess, Mama Zara, called for a gathering under the moonlight. Her voice was old and cracked, but full of power. The earth refuses to give because the hearts of this village remain hardened. The land remembers the curse between the house of Eli and the house of Adamu. Until the children return, unity will not return. Whispers rippled through the village. Which children? Amina and Daniel? After all these years? It cannot be. But the message was clear as the stars. The village would remain barren unless the two hearts once torn apart returned home. And so, with great reluctance and stubborn pride, both families sent messengers to summon their long-exiled children. Amina returned first. She walked through the gates with braided hair, steady eyes, and the self-assurance of a woman who had survived storms. The children stared at her. The women whispered. The men nodded with restrained admiration. Daniel returned 3 days later. Broader shoulders, calm eyes, a quiet smile that made people pause. The moment he stepped through the gate, the wind shifted. Even the dust seemed to settle differently. And when Amina heard the flute's familiar tune echo from across the marketplace, her heart burst open like ripe fruit. She dropped her calabash. She ran. Daniel turned at the sound of her footsteps. For a moment, time stopped. The world disappeared. The feud disappeared. The years disappeared. He breathed her name, Amina. She whispered his, Daniel. And they embraced, publicly, boldly, without fear. The village gasped. The house of Eli shouted. The house of Adamu roared. Old hatred rose like a storm. But this time, Amina and Daniel did not cower. This time, they stood firm.
Amina stepped forward, shoulders high. "I will not run anymore," she declared. "I have done everything you asked. I left, I stayed away, I tried to forget. But the heart does not forget its own truth." Daniel moved beside her like a shield. "I returned not as a boy, but as a man. And I will not allow fear to control the destiny of my heart. I love Amina, I always have." The elder scoffed. "Love cannot solve a curse. Love cannot mend what land has broken. Love is foolishness before pride." Mama Zara stepped forward. Her white cowries rattled. Her staff thudded against the earth. Foolishness? No. Weakness? No. The only foolishness is holding on to hatred so tightly that your own children bleed for it. The crowd fell silent. Let the land decide, she said finally. A murmur of fear rolled through the villagers. To let the land decide meant calling upon the ancient spirits, inviting judgment that could not be reversed. But pride is a dangerous fire. The families agreed. Amina and Daniel were instructed to stand hand in hand on Ajaodan, the cursed land itself. If the spirits rejected their union, they would be struck down. If the spirits accepted their love, the families must reconcile. That night, torches circled the land. Drums boomed like thunder. The sky was dark, heavy, waiting. Amina and Daniel stood in the center, fingers intertwined. Mama Zara began chanting. The ground trembled softly. Then, a wind swept across the land. The baobab tree rustled violently, though no other tree moved. The earth glowed faintly with golden dust. A voice, ancient as creation, filled the air. The land was broken by pride. The land will heal through love. Suddenly, the earth cracked open beneath Amina's and Daniel's feet. The crowd screamed. But instead of sinking into the ground, the two were lifted by a gentle swirl of dust and light, held as though by unseen hands. Their bodies glowed, their tears fell to the soil, and the crack sealed itself. The sign was clear. Love had conquered the curse. The house of Eli knelt first. The house of Adamu followed. Old Eli himself, Amina's father, wept openly. I have carried anger for too long, he whispered. You are my daughter, Amina, and your happiness is my peace. Adamu, Daniel's father, placed his hand on Eli's shoulder. We were brothers once, he said. Let us be brothers again. The crowd roared with relief. Women ululated. Men beat their chests in joy. Children danced around the baobab tree. Amina collapsed into her mother's arms. Daniel embraced his father. Both families stood together for the first time in almost 2 decades. The drought ended the very next morning. Rain fell heavily, joyfully, soaking the earth that had long been thirsty. The river swelled again. The fields blossomed. Even the birds sang differently. Arua was healed. A month later, Amina and Daniel were married in a ceremony so grand that griots still single it. The procession began at sunrise. Amina wore a flowing wrapper of gold and deep blue. Cowries adorned her braided hair. Her feet were painted with intricate patterns symbolizing blessing, unity, and destiny. Daniel wore a white agbada embroidered with symbols of peace and rebirth. As they walked toward the altar, villagers showered them with petals. Drummers played rhythms that stirred the soul. Mama Zara blessed the union. May your love be stronger than pride. May your children never inherit the wounds of their ancestors. May the land remember harmony forevermore. They exchanged vows beneath the baobab tree, the tree that had once hidden their love and now celebrated it. And when Daniel kissed Amina, the wind carried the sound across the entire village like the whisper of the ancestors saying, "At last." Years passed, and Amina and Daniel's love story became a legend. They built a home on Ajaodan, the once cursed land, now a symbol of unity. Their first child, a daughter named Naomi, grew up hearing the story of how love healed a village. Their second child, a son named Jonah, played beneath the baobab tree whose roots had once witnessed sorrow but now nourished joy. The house of Eli and the house of Adamu remained united for generations. Whenever conflicts arose in the village, elders would say, "Remember Amina and Daniel. Remember the land that broke and healed.
remembered that love is the oldest, strongest magic. And so the earth continued to remember, but now it remembered unity, not bitterness. Arua flourished, the river flowed, the children laughed freely. And under the shade of the ancient baobab tree, the story of the lovers who conquered hatred lived forever.